Andrew McCART, IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. I'm here with Dan Lawrence. Now, Dan, for people that might not know who Dan Lawrence is, but you have been on social media with Josh Taylor. You're doing some unique exercises with Josh. You are a strength and conditioning coach. So for people that don't know who Dan Lawrence is, let us hear it.
Firstly, thanks for having me on, Andrew. And so I'm Dan Lawrence. I'm strength and conditioning coach for Josh Taylor. I work with a number of other boxers as well, Conor Benn, Ryder, and previously over the years with George Groves. So strength and conditioning boxing is it's now a thing. It's something we've been trying to move forwards over the past. I worked with George Groves from 2013 actually, so it's been quite a while now. And thankfully, people are buying into it a lot more. Fundamentally, what we try to do as strength and conditioning coaches, we don't get involved with the boxing. We obviously have massive synergy with the boxing coach fundamentally to drive performance forwards. But we look at improving the athletic qualities that allow the boxers to do what they do best in the ring, which is to fight and spar and do what they do. So in terms of those qualities, we're looking to... I'm going to break this down in simplistic terms, but I will.
Please do.
So we're going to raise up a limit of force production. So in essence, we want the fighters to get strong. Fundamentally, though, boxing is a sport that's governed by not just how much force you produce and becoming stronger, it's how quickly you produce that force, or what we call rate of force development. So we want to get people stronger, or fighters stronger first and foremost, but then we work down what we call the force velocity curve, again, without getting too flash, and then we execute movements with greater velocities, more ballistic, explosive style exercises, which, flipping it back round to Josh Taylor himself, boxing on May the 22nd against Jose Ramirez, we've just entered our taper phase. So you'll see a lot of kind of explosive style exercises. That doesn't mean then that everyone should go and do explosive exercises, because you have to have some form of strength prior to introducing these types of movements. So we have to get strong first. Mr. Davison is now back in the...
Let me spin this round at the truck. Look at the truck, look. Like the right hillbilly he is. Look at this. How you doing, Ben? You alright? There's Mr. Ben Davison himself, the living legend that is. Hillbilly Ben's back. You were talking about the taper phase and explosive exercises from Josh. Let me just fix my camera again. I'll edit this a little bit out. Yeah, you're talking about the taper phase and stuff like that. So just go back to it since Ben's just arrived here.
Yeah, so in essence, just to give you a broad overview now, we want to get a fighter strong first. So I liken this, and I use these analogies with fighters, we want to increase the horsepower in the car's engine. If you only got a 1 litre Nissan Micra, no matter how many explosive exercises you do with these fighters, if fundamentally they're not strong and they're not producing high levels of force, it doesn't really matter how many explosive medicine ball, plyometric exercises they may be doing, because you're only in a 1 litre engine. It's like putting spinners on a Nissan Micra, so to speak. So if we can upgrade the engine, increase the horsepower in the engine, and then surf the force velocity curve and do greater ballistic explosive exercises, you have a greater engine, so that's getting stronger. But remember, it's not just about getting stronger, it's how quickly you can execute these movements and explosively, because in essence we're governed by time. We're not training these fighters to become powerlifters. Yes, we want them to be strong, but how strong is too strong is something that we say. We want them to be more explosive, powerful fighters, and to give them the tools to showcase that at when it matters, which is in the ring.
S&C, strength and conditioning, a lot of people will ask what is strength and conditioning and stuff. A lot of people do know what it is, but it's starting to become a more integral part of boxing. Do you know what I mean? You have an S&C coach, you have a boxing coach, you have a nutritionist, so you are an integral part of the boxing team now, aren't you, in terms of what you do for the fighters. And for people that don't know, that a lot of the strength and conditioning coach up and down the country now, but not a lot of people know who they are. But for Dan Lawrence, man, you work with some high profile names. You mentioned Conor Benn, you mentioned George Groves, and obviously Josh Taylor out here in Vegas, but you are an integral part of boxing now, aren't you?
Thank you. Yeah, it's nice to get some recognition. I've always stayed away. We jokingly said off camera, Andrew, I've stayed away from kind of interviews. I don't like trying to put myself in the limelight in that manner or fashion, but I've seen a lot of my peers do it of late, so I thought we'd have a chat. And yeah, thank you for the recognition we are getting. It's something, as I say, we've been trying to fight a battle over the last, what would it be, 2012, 2013, God, how's my maths, 8-9 years now, to drive performance forwards. Boxing was stuck in the dark ages. We've definitely seen a massive transition in terms of performance optimization, and we've thankfully got some fighters who really buy into our methods to drive performance forwards. Something I say is you never have to get a fighter to work harder, but actually working smarter is something that will improve and optimize performance, and sometimes that means improving recovery, and that's something that I've done with a lot of my fighters in terms of recovery and sleep optimization to get them to improve performance. So it's certainly something that's evident in all teams now, that they have a strength and conditioning coach. And I us to be seen as more than someone who just looks at the sets and reps in the gym. You know, we look at a broad overview in terms of the mindset, in terms of, you know, sleep and recovery, in terms of the training piece as well. But also, again, everything comes back to the head coach, the boxing coach, and we have to have synergy with the boxing coach. And thankfully, I've worked with some incredible coaches, currently Ben Davis, and I work with Tony Sims closely as well. And they really buy into the methods, and we're a collective unit with one sole goal: to drive performance forwards for the fighter and win on fight night.
I hope I've nailed this interview. I don't know how dark you are with the light behind you, but listen, as long as they can hear you, because you're a good looking man, I'm not wanting anyone to see what you look like and put me to shame. Talk to me about Josh Taylor then. How's he looking? 'Cause like I say, I follow both you and Josh, and I've seen what you put up on Instagram, all the unique sort of exercises that you've been doing with them, with the medicine ball, the bar and stuff like that, and they're jumping up and down with the bands on his elbows and stuff like that. Like you're saying, explosiveness. But so how is Josh looking in that gym? Is he beating his PBs? Is he looking strong? You should know as the S&C coach, how's he looking?
Absolutely. I won't go into the specifics in terms of how Josh has improved, but funny enough, Andrew, yesterday evening I went through, we obtain objective data, otherwise, you know, we're just guessing, and if you're just guessing, that's certainly not good enough. I need to showcase the improvements we've made in my first camp. This is with Josh Taylor. I think February the 22nd we did our initial testing, and yesterday we did our testing as well, and Josh has improved across the board in terms of strength markers, absolutely, but also in terms of, as I mentioned, the more ballistic, explosive style exercises. We look at 3 fundamental movements there. We look at a squat jump, a counter movement jump, and RSI, which again, I know no one's probably going to know what. Utilisation of the stretch shortening cycle. So I'll flip that back round to boxing. How would that work? In essence, if a boxer steps back out of range, they put force into the ground and try and transfer that force back to their opponent with a counter shot of their backhand. If they spend too long on the floor, in essence, they've dissipated energy and they're not going to be able to land that shot. That's how important it is, and that's how I talk to my fighters as well, because in essence, again, the strength and conditioning side of things great from my end, but I've got to appreciate not everyone likes the strength and conditioning like I do, you know, so I have to talk to them in a way of linking it back to the boxer. And in essence, if they're putting force into the ground, they can then land their shot, then that's what we're trying to do. So there's lots of different things that go into that in terms of, one, getting stronger, improving, you know, muscle tendon unit, improving ground reaction times, improving the ballistic explosive style exercises. But we obtain a lot of objective data to inform those decisions, see areas that we need to work on. Does a fighter need to get stronger? So I'll flip it back to another fighter I work with, John Ryder, which I jokingly say his nickname is very apt because he's John the Gorilla Ryder. He's a very strong fighter. He puts force into the ground very well, but actually, does he transfer that force in the rate that we need to you know, transfer that to the boxing ring? He could have been more explosive. John knows that, and he's absolutely improved that in the 3+ years we've worked together. The buy-in I've had from John Ryder has been absolutely incredible, and he's got a big fight coming up very soon. So John needed to get more explosive. He didn't really need to get stronger. Did we work strength? Yes, absolutely. We raised up a limit of force production. We made his strength super strength, but we also made him a more explosive athlete. There's other fighters who I won't mention who are the other side of that continuum, who are very reactive, springy, elastic athletes, like a kangaroo, if you like, so very different to a gorilla, when actually, if we get them stronger, how is that then going to influence how much power they produce? Force times velocity equaling power. So there's lots of... Our first interview, probably the worst time for an interview. I can never work in an office. I'm very easily distracted here. But anyway, yeah, you have different ends of the continuum. But it's not just us guessing. We assess these athletes to see where they're at, what we require, and we do a complete profile of this athlete to see the areas that we can improve for what we need to improve in the ring.
Hey, there's Ben again, Hillbilly Ben. Dan, for me, when you were talking about that, I was trying to it sounds scientific. It sounds like there's a science to it when you said put the force into the ground and explode back up. Is it? Do you treat it as like a sort of a science in terms of the way you approach the strength and conditioning side of things? I mean, you talked about data. You've done your first initial session. You keep that data and you're going about progression. For you, do you look at this strength and conditioning side of things as sort of a science behind it?
I think it's both an art and a science, for sure. You know, you can be too wrapped up in the data and too wrapped up in the science. In essence, the art of coaching is building relationships and getting the best out of your athletes. And if I'm honest, without sounding egotistical, I feel that's my biggest strength. Yes, we obtain the data. Yes, we get the science. But actually, you've got to be able to get the best out of your athlete. Because if we're just talking data all day, it just goes way over people's heads, which I'm sure a lot of this interview may have done as well.
Tell you what, though, I'm intrigued. I'm sort of listening to what you're saying, and I'm trying to take it all in. I'm like, this is something I've never heard of. And like I said to you, the S&C side of thing is an integral part of boxing now. So
Brilliant. No, thank you. I try and articulate in a manner that the athletes understand. This isn't me to just talk about the science. It has to be communicated in a way that they really understand and buy into it. So I'll flip it back to another fighter, Conor Benn. Conor wants to be known and is an explosive fighter. I knew that from the, again, 3.5+ years I've worked with Conor. So I've used that term a lot in the language that I use with him. So I don't talk about force velocity curve. I say, okay, we're doing this exercise to make you a more explosive fighter. Instantly you get the buy-in. See that thing on your arm, the push band that we're monitoring how quickly you move this load at? Well, in essence, if you produce more force and lift with more intent, you're going to get better numbers on that. Here are your numbers from last week. I want you to beat those numbers. Oh man, right, cool, let's go. So it gives them an outcome that we're trying to meet. But so to back to your question, Andrew, yes, there is a science. There needs to be a science behind it. But a lot of what we do is the communication, getting the best out of the athletes. And buy-in is a word that gets used a lot in high performance. You have to get buy-in from your athletes. And that comes with, them investing in you and believing and understanding what you're saying to them. And that doesn't just come from science. That comes from voicing your message in a way that they can resonate with.
It sounds to me that you've also got a passion for this, Dan. I mean, you wouldn't have a passion if you wouldn't have a passion for it and you wouldn't do it. Do you know what I mean? So listening to you right now, it sounds like you're very passionate about your athletes, the way you approach the thing. You told me that you do a lot of work on your laptop. So I've seen the crazy exercises, and I'm going to call them crazy because you understand them, and Josh, I know your athletes understand. But I'm looking at them, I'm like, that's nuts. I would never see myself doing that in the gym. But do you sit at your laptop and when you go to sleep at night, and are you thinking about different sort of exercises and what can I use this band for? I can wrap that around his knee and maybe you can do that. Does that keep you awake at night thinking about different exercises?
I'm that sad, yeah. So I sit in bed in my lab coat and no. Look, I have absolutely a huge passion for what I do. I love what I do. We again spoke off camera. I said I bounce out of bed every morning, and there is an element of sacrifice. It looks great in Las Vegas with these fighters, but this is my life. Yes, look, I have a consummate passion for what I do. I love what I do, and I'll only work with athletes who buy into my methods, and when they do, I'm all in with them. So in essence, it's not so much thinking about these flash exercises. An exercise is a means to reach an outcome. The outcome is the adaptations we're looking to elicit. So I'll break that down a little bit further. I've used the term, if we want to raise up a limit of force production, okay, we might use an exercise like a trap bar deadlift from the blocks. Well, we know that a trap bar deadlift is a little bit of a safer option if someone has a history of lower back issues, because there's less shear and compressive loading on the spine. A trap bar, guys, by the way, is the bar that you kind of step in as opposed to a conventional Olympic bar. So if someone has a history of lower back pain and we want to raise up a limit of force production, I'm going to bias that movement. But it doesn't mean the exercise is the holy grail. It's what I'm getting from the exercise and how the athlete lifts that exercise. So that's why we monitor with the push band, again, how quickly they're moving that lift, that exercise, and how much intent they're lifting with that, because intent drives adaptation. So back to your question about the flash stuff with the bands, that's not me being flash, it's me trying to elicit an adaptation that will improve the athletic qualities that we've identified that athlete needs to win on fight night, improve power, or whatever it may be that we're trying to influence.
See, I could sit here and ask you questions about this all day and all night, but we probably don't have time. You're going to have to go to the gym and do some work with Josh. But one final word on Josh Ramirez. I know you don't do the integral part in terms of the boxing side of things. You leave that to Ben. But you've been around the sport long enough. You know boxing. I'm guessing you are a fan of the sport as well. Talk to me a little bit about this fight. Josh Taylor Ramirez, undisputed.
Yeah, great question, Andrew. And I've always, I'll sit on the fence in the form of I don't want to talk about the boxing. I don't really want to talk about the fight itself. What I do know is what I've worked with Josh. And have we improved him as an athlete? Absolutely. We've improved all of the markers that are going to be transferred into the ring. He's in a great headspace. His mindset's stronger than anyone I've ever seen. He's improved as an athlete throughout the course of a camp, as I've alluded to, in terms of the markers that we're looking for that are going to influence performance. How do I see the fight going? That's not for me to say. I'm just the S&C coach, all right? Maybe speak to Ben Davis or someone who's a lot more knowledgeable on that side of things. But, I wouldn't be here if I didn't truly believe Josh was going to win that fight on May the 22nd.
Dan, what a very diplomatic and great answer. But I won't keep you much longer. Like I said, you're going to do a little bit more work with Josh tonight down at Top Rank Gym. So again, like I can sit here and listen to you all day talk about the science and the passion that you have for strength and conditioning. Because like I say, it's an art as well as a science, like you said there. So it was interesting. I'm intrigued. No doubt I'll pick your brain a little bit more. But until then, thank you so much for doing this for FL TV, and always a pleasure speaking to you, my man.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate the time, and thank you for putting strength and conditioning on the map and giving us this platform. Cheers.
Not a problem, mate. Thank you, Dan.